Welcome back to Chatting with Kody, and I'm Kody with a K. In this video, I'll be discussing my fascination with the world of streaming. I've always been aware of streaming platforms, like back in the days of Justin TV, the rise of streaming on YouTube, as well as Facebook, and of course, the heavy hitter of all, Twitch. But I never really delved into those platforms, as the primary channels advertised were to push the streamers with an already large fan base. I understand the business aspect of it is pushing the moneymakers to the front to help bring in subscriptions and other sources of monetization to the platform in hopes of setting record profits. I have nothing against streamers with a larger fan base, but the one aspect of streaming that I enjoy is the broadcaster-viewer interaction. But I find with larger streamers, the only way to get that interaction is through means of gifting subs, paying for a message to be highlighted, or giving a noticeable amount of money through donations or a digital form of currency in order to get their attention. With smaller streamers, having that broadcaster-viewer interaction definitely makes their day when someone tunes in and chats with them as they play or do whatever. It honestly reminds me of the days as a kid, long before the days of streaming, where friends would hang out and either take turns playing a video game or you'd watch an older sibling play one. It harkens back to that childhood wonderment for me, where I can watch and enjoy the gameplay. As an adult, and not having many friends, streaming was a way to meet new people who shared similar interests, as living in the small area that I'm from, there weren't many who did. Video games had the stigma of being meant only for children or people who didn't grow out of it. And so because of that, it was not something that was boasted about unless you grew up with those people and you knew that they played video games as well. Because of such, I really didn't have many people to talk to about game series or franchises, so watching and interacting with streamers was one of my only outlets for quite some time. One streamer I started chatting with ended up becoming a good friend, and I was later introduced to a small group of England-based gamers. For a year or so, they became really good friends, and I ended up recording a bunch of our shenanigans, which was one of my first ventures into content creation, but as you can tell, that didn't go too far, as I'm still a nobody working on a new project yet again. But over time, as people do, everyone went their own ways, and the small group I once knew became strangers. Tony, Matt, Ollie, and Daniel, I hope you guys are doing well, and I always look upon our time in Rainbow Six Siege with fondness and laughter as I still reminisce about those days. I hope wherever you guys are in your lives, that all of you are happy and are doing well. To get back on topic, as I didn't have many friends to talk to or hang out with, streaming became one of those things that I could get some sort of socialization with people of similar interests. In the later part of my 20s, I started to develop anxiety and depression. I felt like I could only handle so much social interaction, and streaming was one of those perfect outlets where I could talk with somebody for how long or as little as I wanted to. And once my social battery ran out, I could just leave on my own accord without there being any social repercussions that would further my anxiety. In a social setting, it's a little bit more difficult to have that disconnect once the social battery runs out, as it may appear rude or offish to stand up and just walk out on a host, or even more so if they're the guests visiting. As streamers are used to people coming and going throughout the span of their streams, smaller streamers enjoy pretty much any viewer interaction, as it means that they're being noticed. Streaming provided the perfect scenario to fend off that loneliness, as it allowed you to feel that social engagement, but as your battery ran out, you could easily end that interaction when you were ready for it. Alternatively, one of the other things that streaming provided was the comfort of not feeling so alone, where you could throw on a favorite streamer in the background, listen as they rambled on about whatever, without any interaction from you, the viewer, making it feel like you weren't just sitting in your room, alone. Reading that last portion just made me realize how sad that sounded. The pandemic made the loneliness feel worse. In my country, local law enforcement could investigate why you were leaving your house, inquire about the occupation of residents if there were too many vehicles outside of a single house, and charges could be laid if people were found to be breaching pandemic protocols. Visiting friends and family became a criminal offense if caught in the act. It was one thing to be a lonely introvert and wanting that social connection every so often, to now being told that if you did leave your house for any other reason than basic needs, it would be a criminal offense, making the depressing isolation feel even worse. One thing that did help ease the loneliness, of course, was the topic of this video, streaming. I remember looking for small streamers to watch, and then I remember that an old friend I hadn't connected with in a really long time used to stream. I remember finding his channel once more, followed and looked forward to his next stream so I could have some sort of responsible social interaction that wouldn't be seen as criminal. I won't use his real name in this video for privacy's sake, but his Twitch username is Zillith, and he kinda helped me out of that feeling of isolation that plagued me for so long at that point of the pandemic. Zillith would stream artwork, Mega Man speedrun, survival-based games, and I'd always look forward to watching his streams. More often than not, I'd find myself staying for a full duration of his stream, as he was just a good dude all around to watch on stream, and I wanted to support him to become a full-time streamer. Even today, as I'm starting on my own path to be a content creator, I want to help build him up simply because he is a good dude. I'll put a link in the description for his channel in case you want to check out his streams. We will continue this chat another time though, as it's getting late. I'd like to thank you for sitting with me and letting me share my story. Before I go, I have to ask, who are some of your favorite streamers? Do you like to have that streamer engagement? Or do you prefer to lurk?